This is Gemara and Eruvin Daf Tezayin. The learning for the Chodesh Elul is sponsored as a Zchos for Shleim for Shana Teva Bas Esther, as well as a Zchos Elid Nishmasar for Esther Rizel Basar Meir. Of course, our Chaylim Yudameir Ben Yakir Manim Vigil Chaim Ram Chanita Chaim Ben Ser Some Tumor in Zezo Sar Bas Kanad Basim As Chaysay Yitzchaim As Arasta Yusuf Mindel is our president to Shavalei Tinu Ben Chayis or Osar Shami Bas Naomi Shav Fego Bas Shir Chana follow me to Riva Shoshana and B'Zayich Shar Chayli Yisrael. Actually, Tinuk ben Chayitz or I don't remember the name, but Baruch Hashem, that baby has had a bris. Mirza Hashem, more good news. Again, I welcome anyone, and many people did reach out for the link for all these wonderful pictures from Kol Alashan. They made it as a free download. Anyone who has not emailed me, please feel free, or everyone share it. They shared it with everyone, so let's continue sharing it, because Baruch Hashem is a wonderful, wonderful resource. We're now going to pick it up on the bottom of Tesvav Amid Beis. We're in the middle of discussing Parutz Ka'imid. As actually, as you see over here, the Gemara on Tesvav Amid Beis, the Gemara right after the Mishnah started. Let's just read those two lines, and then we're going to go with two Tashamayit lines to the bottom. The Gemara said, "Itmar Parutz Ka'imid." We know that there's a concept that in order to have a wall, you can have parit meruba la'imei, you could have more open than closed, you can have more closed than open, or you could have 50-50. So in the machlekes of 50-50, parit ke'aimei, we have machlekes Rav Papa and Rav Huna B'Rei Rav Yeshua. Rav Papa says it's fine, Rav Huna B'Rei Rav Yeshua says it is not fine, and the Gemara is in the middle of trying to discuss, bring rayas back and forth. So says the Gemara, Tashema, ha-mekara sukasai, someone covers the sukkah with poles, or with benches or the sides of a bed. If there's the amount of space between these puzzle pieces of schach in order to fill it up with kosher schach, then it's going to be kosher. So what do we see over here? Seemingly what we see over here is that when it's going to be 50-50, even though this is not the same exact thing as paritz ke'oimed, because here it's not creating a machitza, here you're having to have kosher suchach. And here the din is that if it's going to be 50-50, then what are you allowed to do? You're allowed to fill it up with kosher suchach, and therefore it's going to be good. So seemingly this is going to be like the opinion of Rav Baba, a question on Rav Huna B'Rei Yeshua and the Rishonim and the Ritva, and others explain how it's the same concept to have kosher schach is the same concept as having a kosher mechitza. Answers the Gemara the same answer that we're going to see many, many times. No, the case is not where that it was equal. The case is where you're able to put them in and out, meaning that there's a little more space than there is pasal schach, and therefore at the end of the day you're going to have a more kosher schach than pasal schach. On that, the Gemara asks, what's the reason that you're saying that? We thought, and Rashi over here, if you look at Rashi, Rashi speaks out, that we thought that the reason was because you can't make it exactly equal, and that's the reason why we make the spaces a little bit larger to allow you to put in the kosher schach. Ask the Gemara, why is that true? Let's actually look at the Rashi together. Rashi, 4 lines before the white line, says the answer that we just said, that is more room. Is that normal to make it precise? So the Gemara asks, why not? So what's the reason why we're saying the cases where there's more space in the kosher schach? Why don't they make it exactly equal? Amar Ravani, back in the Gemara, Amar Ravani, if no, the case is where they were not specific, there they were not precise. The case is specifically in a case where there was more area for the kosher schach, and that is the reason why it's not a raya to our discussion of 50-50. Rava says no, the case there was slightly different. Am I in a student Erev? Nice in Shasi, nice in Erev. The case there was, you had the pasal schach one way, and you put the kosher schach the other way, therefore it's no proof to our case. Again, we'll just show one picture, even though this is pretty simple. It's just a beautiful picture over here. You see over here Shvudin, you see these metal poles, you see that Ruchsa meets the sides of the bed, and you see that in between them, they filled it up with the schach, and that is the discussion whether this would have been a raya, and the Gemara is answering that it is no raya. Says the Gemara, Tashema, 2 lines for the bottom, Tezvav on the base. Shayara shechansa bebeka. Similar to the case we spoke about in the Mishnah, we have the shayara, we have this encampment, this caravan that encamps in a valley, v'kifua b'gamalin, and they surround themselves. They come Shabbos, they want to be able to carry. So what do? They unload all the camels and all the other things, the gamalin, ba'ukvais, and the saddles, ba'avotin u'b'shlifin, the pillows and the blankets and all the other items, v'konim, v'kolchais, all the vegetable packages, and again, basically all the packages, and they spread it all around them. Says this brisa, mitaltlin b'seicha, then you let it carry inside it. Ubilvad shlo yehi ben gamel gamel kimali gamel. You have to be careful that there's not enough space between the camels, the size of the camel. Ubein ukov la'ukov, between the saddles, kimali ukov, the size of the ukov. Ubein avit la'avit, kimali avit. So seemingly, what do we see? Seemingly, we see that what did this brisa teach us? That it can't have the exact same area. It has to be more closed than open. Seemingly, it sounds like if it would be 50-50, it would be a problem. So seemingly this is a question on Rav Papa, who said it should be mutter. Here we see it is not mutter. Because what did the Brisa say? Bilvad, that it should not be equal. Rav Papa says, what do you mean? Let it be equal, and it will be kosher. Again, the Gemara is the same answer. The case is, we're at a little more area. Again, just because these are such beautiful pictures. You see over here, these guys were camping. They had a stop for Shabbos. So what do they have? They have the pillows, and they have these vegetables, and they have the packages, and they have the camels, and they have the saddles, and they have all these items, and this is going to create a valid machitza, allowing them to carry inside for Shabbos. So the Bryce is just pointing out that you can't have the spaces, as you see over here, cannot be as big as the closed-in areas. But again, the Gemara proves that it's not a proof, because the case was, it was a little bit larger. Says the Gemara, Tashma, 5 lines down, to Zayin Amid Health. It comes out that there are 3 midos, 3 measurements when it comes to creating these partitions. Again, we're now shifting gears. We're going into kalayim, dinim that we've seen already. We go a little bit extensively over here. We know that when you have the geffen, when you have a vineyard, you're not allowed to plant wheat next to it. Why not? Because you're going to have kalayim, you're going to have a mixture that is forbidden. However, we already learned this din that if you have a mechitza, if you have a wall separating, then on one side of the wall you could have your grapevines, on the other side of the wall you could have your wheat. What type of mechitza? You need to have a halachically sound mechitza, just like our dinim of mechitzas with regard to Eiruvin. So we're going to prove from here back to our dinim. So says this brisa, there are 3 midos, shalish midos, b'mechitzas, 3 measurements when it comes to mechitzas, 3 levels we'll call it. Level number 1, kolshu palchais mishleisha, it's less than 3 tvachim, you're putting up these planks to create a fence. So if it in itself is less than 3 tvachim wide, then you got to be careful that in between each piece is not 3 tvachim. Of course, we know why, because then it's loved. If you have a plank, and each one's not 3 tvachim wide, but between them is less than 3 tvachim, then we're going to say loved, and it will be fine. And we know that where does 3 tvachim come from? That's the amount that a gediyah goat can walk through. Says the brisa, make sure you don't have 3 tvachim so that the goat doesn't walk through. Kol shu make gimel, where any time the plank is 3 tvachim, ume gimel vadalid, or it's between 3 and 4 tvachim. Then again, the planks, you have these vertical planks that you're putting up to create this wall, to create this mechitza, to allow you to plant another min next to these grapes. Says the brisa, if it's between 3 and 4 tvachim. Why? Then you have to be careful that the space in between it cannot be the exact same size as the plank itself. And of course, this is going to be where the eventual proof is going to come from, because you see over here that the space cannot be exactly equal, and we already could all anticipate this is going to be a question on Rav Papa. Shaloi tehei parut ke'oimed. You don't want to have parut ke'oimed, which of course is going to be a question on Rav Papa. All right, because why can't it be parut ke'oimed? But now we're in the middle of a brisa, so let's continue. We're in level number 2. Let's say you have more parts, you have more opening than you have enclosed. Then even opposite the partition itself, it is aser. Again, you have these planks. So we said if they're between 3 and 4, then you got to make sure that the holes in between them aren't the size of they themselves. If they are the size of they themselves or larger, then we said it's not a valid mechitza. Not only is it not a valid mechitza to allow you to plant another min next door, says this brisa, you can't even plant opposite that plank. Again, you have this little, let's say, 3 tefach plank. You can't put on one side a grape, another side a wheat. Kol shu meidalid. Anytime the plank is now 4 tefachim, ume arba deser amois, or it's 4 tefachim until 10 amois, sar shloy bein zelazeh. Again, you have to make sure that the hole in between it's not the size of it itself. So again, seemingly the same statement, you don't have parutz ka'aymin. Let's say it is keneged ha'aymed mutter, Now, once the plank itself is 4 tefachim wide, we know 4 tefachim already gets its own din of a rishus. So if the plank itself is 4 tefachim wide, then opposite the plank, you'd be allowed to plant. Again, on one side you can have a grape, on the other side you can have a wheat, because that itself makes its own rishus. Keneged oimin mutter, keneged a paritz is going to be aser. Why? Because it's paritz, it's more open than it is closed, so it's not a valid mechitza opposite the open part. But let's say you have more closed than opening, then av keneged a paritz mutter, then it's valid, one big mechitza, and you let it plant at any point. Nifr tzav yeser miaser, the Brisa continues, and these are really a nice chazara bulletin that we've seen, that if there's an opening of more than 10 amos, aser, then it is aser. We know what that is because we know that openings could only be 10 amos wide. Once an open is more than 10 amos, it's not a pesach anymore, and it's going to disqualify this from being a mechitza. Hayisham kadim haduk ranim. If there are beams that are pegs or staves that are stuck into the ground that basically are now going to try to create a mechitza, and you put a vine on top of them, basically you make a tzuras hapesach, you make a doorway, then afilu yosem yaser mutter, as we've seen as well, then even more than 10 amos will be mutter, because then you have a doorway permitting even more than 10 amos. End of the Brisa. Now, let's explain the Araya, says the Gemara. Katani Mio, what do we see? Reisha. We see in the Reisha, which of course doesn't mean the Reisha, means the second case, means the first half of this Brisa. Me Gimel Vadali, that if the planks were between 3 and 4 Tfachim wide, we said it can't have the exact same space in between it. It cannot be Parutz Ke'oimed to Yofta Dirav Papa, Kashan Rav Papa holds. Paritz ka'oimid is good. Answers the Gemara. What does it mean that it can't be the same size? Nichlas yoytze, again, it means it's a little bit larger. Says the Gemara. Achinam mistabra. Well, midiktanik. The Brisa said, "Am I a paritz meruba ala oimid?" It said that because in 2 days, if you go back and you read the Brisa, the wording is a little bit difficult. First, it says it can't be equal, and then it says it can't be paritz more than oimid. Which one is it? Make up your mind. Is it equal or is it more open? So now says Rav Papa, it's really more open. And then therefore now it's logical, it's beautiful. Because the Brisa said, if it's paritz meruba lo'imid, af keneged o'imid aser, even opposite that blank is going to be written. Hake o'imid, what's the obvious implication if it's equal? Mutter is going to be mutter, shema mina, so therefore says Rav Papa, to write to me, paritz ke o'imid is yes good. So the Gemara says, okay, let's flip the tables. Sounds like it's a question of Eruvin Yeshua. He held it to aser. We see here it's mutter. Amlacha says Eruvin Yeshua tameich. Ema seifa. What do you do with the seifa? I mean, Rubal apart. There it says the exact opposite. There it says more. I made more plank than has opening. Af can I get up bar? It says mutter. What's the obvious implication? Okay, bar it's aser, and therefore it's going to be forbidden, like Eruvin Yeshua. So now the Gemara asked the obvious question: Save a kashla papa reish kasha Eruvin Yeshua. What's going on over here? One part sounds like one amayir, the other part sounds like another amayir. What's his price? That's the shoe. Says the Gemara. Save a lira papa loy kasha. The save is not a question to Rav Papa. Why? I needed to ratio parts I made once the ratio said the case, whereas more opening parts miruba than closed, then I made. Tani Seifa, I'm in Ru'al parts. So basically, Rav Papa says the Reisha is the Dafka part. Reisha, Rav Huna Brei Yeshua like Kasha. Now we're going to say the exact same thing in the reverse. The first part of the Reisha is not Kasha, and the Rav Yeshua like Kasha. I divided the mistake Seifa. I'm in Ru'al parts. Since the Seifa wanted to say a case where it's more open than closed, Tana Reisha. So now the Reisha as well says. Paritz Merubal Aimid as well says the case where it's more open than closed, and therefore the Gemara basically concludes is that we don't have a proof either way because each part of the Brisa could be implied the exact opposite. So now, that is seemingly the end of this proof. For the Gemara now is one last attempt. According to Rav Papa, again, Rav Papa, Paritz Ki Oimid is mutter. According to Rav Papa, Mishamachi Loi Erev Lu V'Tanilu. Now we're going to have an issue. According to Rav Papa, it makes a lot of sense why the Brisa did not teach all the cases together. Erev mix them together and teach them. El Rav Huna, but according to Rav Huna, Rav Yeshua, why according to Rav Huna, Yeshua, didn't we teach them together? How should I have taught them together? Says the Gemara. Anytime it is less than 3, vishloisha or 3, then you got to be careful that you don't have 3 tfachim in between. So that's the Gemara. According to Rav Yeshua, if you really hold that Paritz Ke Oimid is forbidden, why didn't the Brisa teach the first and second level together? Why did it split it up? Says the Gemara, no, it's not A question, why not? Mishom dami psula dereish psula de seifa, because it is not comparable. This seifa psula dereish. I'm sorry, mishom. I read it wrong. One more time. 4 lines to the bottom. Tezayin Amar Aleph. Mishom dami psula dereish psula de seifa. The reasons to invalidate the first case is different than the reason to validate the second case. Meaning, the Gemara is explaining, according to Eruvin, the issue that parts coming is aser. Why did the Bryce split into levels? The reason is to teach us a different reason why each case is forbidden. Psula dereish, the reason why the first case is forbidden, the reason why the first case is forbidden, we said, is because if it's 3 tfachim, you can't say love it because the goat can walk right through. Psula de seifa, what's the reason the seifa is forbidden? Is not because the goat can walk right through. The reason is, the reason is because Paritz Ka'imid, Rav Huna Bar Yeshua says that if the part where you have a fence and the part that you have an opening is equal, then it is forbidden. So Gemara says the reason why the Bryce is split it up, according to Rav Huna Bar Yeshua, teaches these 2 reasons. So Gemara concludes it's not a raya nor a question to either Rav Papa or Rav Huna Bar Yeshua. Says the Gemara 2 lines from the bottom, Pachas Mishleisha, if it's less than 3 tfachim, man. What's the din? Mani, who is this? Rabbanani, meaning, who is the one that holds, and I'm sure many people are bothered by this, we already see many times, and we know Machlek is Rabbanan and Rav Shimon Gamliel with regard to love. Do we say love at 3 tfachim, or do we say love at 4 tfachim? When we have a gap, an opening of 3 tfachim, according to Rabbanan, we view it as close. According to Shimon Gamliel, it's up to 4 tfachim. Says the Gemara, the Brisa started and said 3 tfachim. So Pachas Mishleisha Mani, Rabbanani, that's the Rabbanan. Dami Pachas Mishleisha Amrin and Lavid. Shleisha Lo Amrin and Lavid. Ema Seifa, then the Brisa continued and it said Kol Shu Shleisha, Umei Shleisha V'ad Arba. And then the Brisa continued and said from 3 to 4. Who's 3 to 4? Asin Rav Shimon Gamliel. That goes according to the opinion of Rav Shimon Gamliel. That says you have loved until 4 Tvachim. Damar Pachas Nei Arba Lavud. Rav Shimon Gamliel says you have loved until 4 Tvachim. Di Rabbanan Mi Shleisha V'ad Arba. Shleisha V'arba Chadu. According to the Rabbanan, it makes no difference. Once it's bigger than 3 Tvachim, you lost your lovud. Amar Abaye, so Gemara is bothered. Is it Rabbanan or is it Shimon Gamliel? Is love at 3 tfachim? Is love at 4 tfachim? Amar Abaye, mideresh Rabbanan, seven hami Rabbanan. It's all the Rabbanan. Love it is 3 tfachim. Umay de Rabbanan, the call lemishra kinegdai. When it comes to different lumdus in the second case. In the first case, we're using the lumdus of love. When you want to have love it close up a gap, then you only have 3 tfachim. However, when we're using the lumdus of allowing the gap to be the same size as the plank, say the Rabbanan, Umay the Rabbanan, the Chol Mishra Kinegdoi, when you want to permit opposite the plank itself, Ika Makam Arba Chashav, then you have until 4 Tvachim, Viloi Loi Chashiv. If it's not 4, then it is not Chashiv, and that's a totally different reason to permit carrying opposite the plank, and that is the opinion of Rabbanan. Both the Reisha and the Seifa are going with the opinion of Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, Rava Amar. Now that was Abayi's answer. Now we can anticipate Rava's going to flip it. Comes like Rava, the Sefer Shimon Gamliel, Reishanami Shimon Gamliel. The exact opposite. When, and this is another answer that we've seen, that they're both going according to Shimon Gamliel. So if it's Rav Shimon Gamliel, why is it only 3 tfachim? Shimon Gamliel holds of love at a 4 tfachim, says the Gemara. Last narrow line, Rav Shimon Gamliel, love it on Mayla. Avalamata, when you have love it on the floor, everyone agrees, even Shimon Gamliel agrees, love it is only by 3 tfachim. Because then it has to do with the goats walking through, and that is 3 tfachim. Love it, we would not say love it anymore. Says the Gemara Tashema, try to bring one last raya. Second white line. The fun is halalu these walls. Sharuban psachim, that the majority of them are open. V'chalainais, openings and windows. This should sound familiar. Mutter, you're allowed to carry in it. Ubil vad, says the Brisa. She'oimim rubal aparetz. Be careful, you have more wall than opening. Now the Gemara says, 1 second, that was a contradiction. First it said it has the majority opening. Then it said you have to have majority closed. Sheruba and tell me it's the majority open? Ella, no, that's not what it means. Ella sheriba, but it has a lot of psachim v'chaloinis, openings and windows. Mutter, why? Only if it has more closed, more wall than has opening. Says the Gemara, what's the obvious implication that we've seen many times? Ha-kiparot. It is aser. If it's going to be exactly equal, then it's to be forbidden. Tiyofta derapapa tiyofta, and the Gemara accepts this as a valid refutation to the opinion of Rapapa, because Rapapa held parts ka'imid is mutter. Here we see clearly it is not. But the Gemara continues, and the Gemara says, even though I just brought you a proof, not like Rav Papa, like Rav Papa, says the Gemara, what's going on here? Incorrect. Yes, Mishon the Daikim Asisa Kavaseks is the Mishnah that is meduyuk like Rav Papa. That's not the Mishnah. Says the parties here is Albinian like Kibinian Mutter. Says in the Mishnah you can have the openings more than the walls. Ha Kibinian. So the Mishnah is meduyak that if it's equal, it's going to be Mutter. So even though we had a valid brisa which seemingly contradicted Rav Papa and seemingly said parts it is forbidden, since the Mishnah is meduyak that it is permissible, therefore we conclude that the Lachla Maisa is like Rav Papa. Parts it is yes Mutter. Says the Mishnah Tazayin, Tazayin Amid Beis, says the Mishnah, we're middle of the wide lines, but 8 lines down. Once we started Lovewood, once we started all these imaginary walls, we'll call them, the Gemara continues. You could take a rope and you could surround one rope, a second rope, and a third rope, one on top of another. But be careful, so you can't have 3 tefachim in between, because then you have love. Shir chavalim, how wide does the rope itself have to be? Va'obyan and stickness yasar tefach, a bit more than a tefach. They say, hey, hakol asar tefachim. We know that the minimum size of a mechitza is 10 tefachim tall. So if you have 3 ropes and each one is a little bit more than a bit, and you have 3 tefachim space in between, 3, 6, 9 plus the ropes itself is 10 tefachim. We'll show a picture in a moment. Makifim bekanim, you could surround bekanim with staves, meaning vertical. Ubelvad shlibin kanal chaver shlish tefachim. Don't have 3 tefachim in between. V'shayara dibur Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says no. We're only talking about Shayara, in case of a caravan, in case of a Shas Atchak, you're traveling at Shabbos, now you have to create these makeshift walls. No, we're talking about any normal case. Call Mechitza She'ena Shasi She'ena Shal Shasi Shal Eruvin Mechitza Dervius Rav Yehuda says no. Mechitza always has to have vertical and horizontal planks. As long as it has one. So let's say a few pictures, then we'll see the Gemara. Over here, you see beautifully that you have 3 ropes going all the way around. Each one is a little bit of a mashu, yosef mitavach together, and therefore you have 3 tefachim, and 3 tefachim, 9 plus the rope is going to have a 10 tefach wall. That is that picture. This is the next part of the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that you can makifim bekanim, that you could surround with these staves, as long as there's 3 tefachim in between, it's going to be okay. This is a machitza of shesi, a vertical machitza. Came longer based review, then he said, no, you need to have a machitza of shesi v'arav, you need to have vertical and horizontal. Back into the Gemara, says the Gemara. Amar Rav Amnun Amar Rav. Hare Amru Aymin Meruba Alaparitz B'Shasi Have Aymid. Have Aymru. They taught us Aymin Meruba Alaparitz. We have more closed than opening B'Shasi when it comes to the lengthwise, the width. Well, I don't know. Shasi means up and down. Have Aymid Arev is longwise. Shasi is up and down. Have Aymid, then it works. So, Rav Amnuna. What about the other way? Again, this is, we'll open a picture. This is chassis in front of you. This is actually 4 tefachim wide. This will for sure work. But this is chassis in front of you. The question is, what about in a case of this case? This is a case of Arev. What about in this case? Would that work? So, says the Gemara. I'll bring you a proof from the case we just showed, the case of the Mishnah. That has to equal 10 tefachim. And if it has to have more oimi than parot, why do you have more than a tefach? Let it be less than 3. Less than 3. Less than 4. And then that should work. Therefore, Abaye brings a proof that we don't say it by the Arif. Again, what's the proof? And the Gemara is now going to go on to explain. But says Abaye that if it was possible that you could have the width-wise ropes, that you could have more paras than Aimi, it says Abaye, so why do we say a case of 3, 3, and then the 3 and the rope being a tefach? Why don't we say 3, 4, 3? Says the Gemara, 1 second. Vitizbra, what are you talking about? Hi, pachos me'arba heichei mukimla. You Abaye, you just told me a case. You just told me I'll have 3 tefachim, and a 4 tefach gap. Says Abaye, what is your case? In mukimla tata, the 4 tefach. Again, let's just open up one picture and then we'll read the weiter. Here you have, in this picture, each one is less than 3 tefachim. This was the Mishnah. So the Gemara now, Abaye is proposing that you could have a case where one of the spaces will be 4 tefachim. Actually, I think, here we have a picture over here, that one of the gaps will be 4 tefachim. The question is, where is that gap? That's what the Gemara now is discussing. And the picture in front of you actually is the first stage of the Gemara. That the Gemara says that if the bottom is going to be 4 tefachim, you're going to run into an issue. Says the Gemara. If you put it on the bottom, well, you know you can't do that. Even Rosh Gamliel agrees you don't have love at a 4 tefachim on the floor. So if it's 4 tefachim off the ground, it's a mechitza that the goats walk through. It's not a valid mechitza, so you're out. And let's say you tell me that you put the 4 tefach guy in the top. So again, you have a 4 tefach gap and then a 3 and a 3. Also have here the high gisa, the high gisa mavatale. Then what do you have? You have a 4 tefach gap in the middle. Again, we're putting it in the middle. I'm sorry, you're putting it on the top. If you have a 4 tefach on the top, so what do you have? You have 4 tefach, so you don't have lavud. And then you have that rope, and then you have the whole airspace up to Shemayim on top of that. So then the top airspace and this 4 tefach airspace are going to be mevatel that rope in the middle, and it's not going to do anything for you. So that can't be the case. Maybe you'll put the 4 tefachim in the middle, meaning you'll have 3, 4, 3. Then you can have more wall than opening from 2 sides. How's that possible? Because you have 3 tvachim on the bottom, love it. 3 tvachim on top, love it. So those of you that it's closed. 4 tvachim in the middle of open space. 4 tvachim is more than 3. 4 tvachim is more than 3. But 3 and 3 together is 6. Sorry, that was very simple. 3 and 3 together is 6, therefore that is more than the 4 tefachim in the middle. So that's called the Oymin Merula Lavar Mishtei Ruchas, the top and the bottom. Shmas Mina, so you can bring me a proof, or you a buyer holding Oymin Merula Lavar Mishtei Ruchas, how they Oymin? Can't be. So we're trying to figure out what was Rav Amnuna's question that he started up the Gemara. That Rav Amnuna said that if you have shesi, if you have planks this way, it's fine. What about if you have planks this way? So what was Rav Amnuna asking? Says Gemara, you know what his question was? You have a mat. You have a reed mat that's 7 and a little bit. Gimel, and it's missing 3 tefachim on it. And therefore it has 3 and 4 is 7. And therefore it has 4 and a little bit. Again, you have a big plank, and you have 4 tefachim and a little bit left, and you have 3 tefachim of a hole. And where do you place this? You place this reed less than 3 tefachim from the floor. I'm sorry, I should have a picture here. I don't know what happened to it, but all the picture books have pictures. I'm sure you're looking at one right now. And you place it less than 3 from the floor. Again, so you have less than 3 from the floor, you have love. And then you have the 3 of this mat, and then you have the 4 of the mat that are closed. Ravashi Amar Mechitza Tluya Ibayale. So that means it's a Mechitza Tluya, it's a hanging Mechitza. The boy Minei Rabbi Tavla Mirav, Mechitza Tluya Mashtat Bechorba. So the question of Rav Avishia, the question of Rav Amnuna, was, in this case, where I think I skipped, let's just read back, just make sure. Rav Amnuna achikam bayalei, kondas machal zav zayin umashu v'chok b'gimel, v'shal b'del umashu v'chok b'bachas b'gimel. Rav Ashi Amar Mechitza Tluya bayalei, k'vayin Rav Tavla. Right, so that's the case. Says the Gemara, and therefore it's not going to work. So again, what do we have? We have this mat of 7 tefachim. We have 4 tefachim on top. You have 3 tefachim that are open, and then you have 3 tefachim over the floor. But that's called a Mechitza Tluya, hanging Mechitza. Hanging Mechitza doesn't work only in a case of water, a case that we've seen where they had to draw the water up. But in a regular case, does not work. That is the answer to Rav Nuna's question. Let's just go for one more minute. Akivim b'kanan, you are surrounded with these staves all around. Said the Gemara, b'shayare in b'yachad loy. Seemingly, we said in the Mishnah, it's only for the case of the caravan, but not for a singular person. Rav Yehuda said, when it comes to a singular person making these mechitzas, we don't permit it more than 2 sa. But what's the obvious implication? But we do permit it for less than 2 sa. So why are you telling me that this whole mechitza, if you're putting up these vertical staves all around to create this makeshift mechitza, is only for a caravan, people traveling, it seemingly for everyone, up until 2 sa? Says the Mark, the whole question is if we're going to give them the entire amount that they need. It's if we give them everything you need, meaning, of course, we agree with you that you can make this as a mechitza. But whether we're going to give you as much area as you need, that was only by a caravan. Where do they say this? Then says the Gemara, it's not, it says in the Mishnah. It's not vertical and horizontal, just one way. Ain't a mechitza, it's not a mechitza, there is Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda really holds it's not a mechitza, but time into a brisa. Whether you have a singular person or whether you have a caravan, and then you make ropes. What's the difference between a singular person and this caravan? One person who gets 2 saw, 2 people get 2 saw. Gimel nasla shayara, and then nasla beis sheish to get 6 saw. Well, eventually a beis asayim, as long as it doesn't have 2 beis saw open of no items at all there. So again, if you have this machlekes of Rav Yehuda and the Chachamim, whether this applies to one person, only applies to a caravan. The whole discussion is only called Sarkon, whether we're going to give them as much air as you want. But everyone does agree that if you take vertical staves and you stick them in the ground all around, less than 3 tefachim all around, it will create a mechita, will permit carrying. When did we say that this din was a special din for a caravan that was only to give you as much area as you need? But everyone will agree that it will give you some area, and we'll pick it up from here tomorrow.